And for more, joining us live is Senior Research Fellow at the Centre for Defence Studies, Matthew Sussex. Matthew, good to see you as always. Thank you. There's been so much of a focus on Gaza, of course. Rightly or wrongly, Ukraine seems to have really dropped off the world's front pages. Just give us a bit of insight into where and how this war is developing. What's the nature of the conflict now?
Well, look, Ash, the war now is often referred to as a stalemate. And I mean, it kind of looks like that from a very, very top level view. In reality, there's an awful lot of very bitter fighting going on and an enormous number of people losing their lives. It's estimated that the Ukrainians have killed up to 13,000 Russians just in the last month after they started a counterattack to try and gain some more Ukrainian territory. And in other parts of the front where the Ukrainians are trying to mount their own sort of offensive operations, you know, there's an awful lot of fighting and suffering going on. But that said, with winter setting in, it does, you know, seem a bit like a situation where the Russians can't go forward and the Ukrainians can't go forward. And that's kind of the definition of a stalemate. And I think this is probably one of the things that Vladimir Putin has been banking on, that he can effectively hold off the Ukrainian counteroffensive until winter, which makes it then very, very difficult for Ukraine to take back its territory, especially as you know, some of these Western donors seem to be sort of flagging in terms of their support.
So how long can this go on for then? I mean, another Christmas rolling around, it all just seems really grim.
It's incredibly grim. Unfortunately, you know, this is a kind of nature of a war that, to some respects, looks like a 21st century conflict with drones and high tech and cyber and all that kind of thing, but also looks like World War I, trench warfare and minefields. So it's generally reckoned that the Russians are figuring that they can keep going for about 3 to 4 years and turn it into a really, really long war. From the Ukrainians' perspective, obviously they'd want that to be shorter, because it's likely that they will, you know, run out of the ability to fight, particularly if the West is providing it. Now, the Ukrainians are starting to build their own ammunition supplies, and one of the things Zelensky said in the US was that Ukraine wanted to become less reliant on aid, but that'll take a little while to get down the pipeline. Either way, though, this conflict does seem as though it's going to go on for quite a considerable amount of time.
And when we look at the Russian side of things, how is Vladimir Putin tracking? We saw him stare down that attempted coup. There's rumours that he's in ill health. Does he still seem to be at the peak of his power?
Well, look, he's announced that he's going to run for president again. Not necessarily because he wanted to, but because he, you know, couldn't ignore the will of the people. Or at least that's his version of it. So, yeah, he's basically created a situation where he can't be anything but the Russian president. Effectively, if, you know, you have no one that you trust around you and no nominated successor, then you're going to be put in a position where you either die in office or you get removed. And there's plenty of, you know, discussion about Putin having been quite badly damaged by the war overall and the Wagner coup attempt. So, you know, this is him trying to reconsolidate, I think, his grip on power. And you know, whether it takes the next couple of years or whether it happens sooner, I guess we'll see. But I think he certainly has is a kind of shadow of his former self in terms of his confidence in his ability to sort of command the Russian people.
Matthew Sussex from ANU, always appreciate you joining us with your analysis. Thanks for your time.